And then the great thing about doing duotone is that you actually get a third color. You know, you have your dark ink and then you have your light complementary color, but then you have the third option, which is the blending of those two colors in tints in various areas, right?
All right, Jake. This is episode 13.
Hello and welcome. Me.
So just to jump in,
Yeah.
I have now officially moved into Hi-Tec-C 0.5.
Oh, nice. Now,
So I've got, yeah, and I'm really using them too. So the 0.25, and this is the 0.5. The only thing is that it's basically the same looking pen. So I had to put a little piece of tape here just to make sure that I don't, keep thinking, what's wrong with my 0.5? And it's not, it's my 0.25.
So the 0.25 is the thinnest one, right?
Yeah, that's my ultra thin.
So
And then the
I wonder if that actually picks up if you're like, so now I'm wondering, like, if you do line art and you're using that pen for like fine details to go over the inks, what does that do to the the resolution needed to scan line art, right? Like,
we're gonna find out.
yeah, I mean, most people say scan line art at 300 dpi and full color, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I was in the printing business. I don't think that really picks up fine lines if you want to pick them up. I mean, they basically just blur together.
Which I'm okay with because I'm sort of making my own like zipatone, you know what I mean? It's just like screens of gray value.
Uh-huh.
That's why I like just noodling so much, cross hatching and just finding different directions to go. But it's hard to get something together like really, like let's say like 10 to 20% just gray and cross hatching or some kind of thing when it's it's obviously a thicker tip. So
Right. Well, I'm all for hatching. Cross hatching, I try to stay away from cross hatching. I mean, not fully. I mean, here's how I would do it. Like, there is some areas of cross
yeah,
hatching, but I try to make the
yeah,
hatching the main thing because, I don't know, cross hatching to me seems a little more underground, and hatch and just like
yeah.
this line hatching, there's like this ideal that I'm aiming for, and it's a combination of classic Frazetta and Tim Vigil and Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, where there's just really smooth, and Bernie Wrightson, right? Because you have these smooth directional lines, and they show you kind of like the contour of the object, but then yeah, you need to get darker sometimes. So you can just, layer the direction, the hatching, over hatching, or you can cross hatch, and there's a place for it. But good art is just good art no matter what you do. I mean,
Heck yeah.
there.
Heck yeah. Well, I think it's interesting with everybody, myself included, wanting to get that, the old classic effects, in drawing and inking comics, especially like 70s, Bronze Age stuff, like I said, with Wrightson and everything. But the thing is that inking was a tool to kind of, I've heard it being referred to as trapping, trapping an area. So then when the colorist comes in, they can go, oh, okay, well, this is obviously a horn. I'll make it some kind of brown.
Yeah.
And then they do their thing. And, oh, this guy's blue. And so, you got to make sure that, as fast as they're working, you're trapping areas. But then when black and white comics come into play, late 70s, early 80s, and it's cheaper just to do a black and white run, then they're kind of noodling into cross hatching and hatching into then the trapped areas. And so, definitely your Wrightson and Mark Schultz from Cadillacs and Dinosaurs and stuff. They're the ones that really brought that in. Oh, and Dave Cerebus.
Yeah, Daveson, but I think it was earlier than that, you know. I think it was Frazetta and then who's the really good artist that did the Prince Valiant, right? Wasn't that a very early example?
Yeah, Hal Foster
Right, right.
and Hal Foster.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, you
Yeah.
had all these different styles, you know, and you know, they evolved, but there's not that many artists, you know, along the way in the pantheon that really adhere to this style. You know, you're bringing a lot of black and white value to a page, and you know, and it's funny because you know that word trapping had a different meaning in four color printing. You know, that would be like when you know, when you don't have that like kind of registration mismatch, and you see like the registration is off. um,
Yeah.
yeah, so the trick was using your dark colors like black to trap the other colors, and so that they would be a little bit wider. Like let's say you have an outline and then you have a fill in, right? So the yellow would be a little
Mm.
bit smaller, you know, and that way the black plate would trap, you know, the yellow, and you wouldn't have that you know, that overlap where it goes out of register. And it's so funny now because the you know, now you know, they have all these filters and they want it
Yeah.
to go out of the register, right? Because that
Right. Right.
simulates the old
Right.
look. But you know, but there had to be a moment back in the early days of comic production where all the inkers and colorists and the artists and everybody would get the work back from the printer and then see what the hell happened, right? Because
Yes.
no matter
Yes.
how hard you tried, it all depended
Yep.
on whether that printing press was out of whack, and how, you know, how sloppy or how lazy they were. And
I think there's something in Wally Wood's Wits End, um, those underground books that he had
uh,
done, anthology stuff, where he actually makes a comment to like why he got into his faster
yeah,
style, for the big boys and stuff, because the printers they just fucked him. I mean, it was just he just lost 30 to 40%
hmm
of all that noodling, to really give some dimension, especially because he can do that really sweet, modeling where there's this secondary lighting and then
right,
the shadow and then primary
yeah,
lighting and stuff like that. So
yeah.
he just abandons it outwardly. But then what does Wits End, to be able to really keep showing people that, he's not farting off, he's not just flagrantly not,
Yeah, well,
sticking
that's
with
the
his
question. It's
thing.
like you know, if you're Hal Foster and you're putting everything into this, and you're going to be in a color, you know, Sunday strip and everything, is all of your work going to go for naught when the whole thing turns out to be out of register, and then you get this, you know, totally random look. You know, the colors can mix weird if they you know, if the ink is laid on too light or too heavy or anything.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it's out of register, plus the fact that, you know, paper stock might vary, you know, and you could have more of a splatter on the paper if they go with a cheaper paper stock. You know, when the press hits the paper, you know, when you look under a loop, it could be a perfectly round dot, or it could be a total splat. You know, and so you know that affected everything. So, you know, and I imagine Kirby, you know, did this too. The evolution of the thicker and thicker graphic style, you know, and the reason why you know, we always want a big thick outline with a variable stroke instead of thin outlines, which could make your art look more realistic, but you know, but
Yeah.
it comes at the sacrifice, you know. But back then, you know, they were very unpredictable, you know, results when stuff would come back from the printer. You know, like they could just mix the color wrong. Um, they could, they be out of register on the press and everything. So, yeah, sure. Kirby was like, most of this stuff is for kids that are looking at this stuff when they're hopped up on sugar, right? And this isn't going to be your fine art stuff. And then there was another school of art, where Frazetta and all these guys were doing their really, beautiful drafting and taking their time. And what you need is a good reproduction process all the way down the line. And that's why I asked you, I'm really glad that you found these pens, because I've been using these pens for mm, about 25 years now, and evangelizing them. And they are super thick. There's different thicknesses, but the thinnest one, I guess 0.25 is the thinnest one. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's super super thin. And the work that I've done with that on like Bristol board, and I've like had art exhibitions and everything, it's some of my most painstaking work. And if you take a picture of it at even 1200 DPI line art and zooms in, it's still like, a limitation of the printing process, the reproduction process and the scanning process. So I guess
Cool.
there's our tech talk for the day. We have a
Yeah.
little a little tech talk. I was involved in printing and electronic prepress, so I do nerd out. But I'm also a student of traditional, printing, and graphics. I actually have a degree, an associate's degree in graphics, um, but I only took 1 year of a 2-year degree because they literally phased out that degree while I was in the middle of it, because they said the digital revolution is going to make all of these things obsolete. I was learning about paper production and photo, what they call the compositor, like how they used to make type on photographic paper with a machine that
Mm,
basically, like, you press a dial, you get a letter, and it just superimposes light onto photo paper. And then they would take they would make headline copy and cut them out and then paste it up to newspapers and magazines and ads and everything else. And now we just like type it out on a font, and hit print.
yep.
So the laser printer really replaced all that. And I'm dating myself, but that's when I went to school. And then right in the middle, it changed to a degree in art and advertising design. So I had to take 3 years to complete a 2-year degree, because I took a detour into graphics. But I'm an old-fashioned nerd, I guess. And I did follow digital when it came out. I got a Mac in 1986. It's pretty early on. It was really expensive. It cost $3,500 for 1 mega RAM, if you can believe
Yeah.
that. And we were just using, like, Photoshop wasn't even out yet. It was just Illustrator. And, like, wow, you can type this out on a laser printer, and you don't have to go to a Velox shop. You don't have to go to a type shop anymore if you're doing ad copy, or if you're printing a headline on, for your comic masthead or your newspaper, whatever. Everything, amazing stuff. So sorry if we were nerding out. I'm sure we lost half the audience.
No, no, I think this is good stuff. And if anybody has anything to add to it, please, in the
Yeah, I mean,
comments.
I actually scan, and so we might, I might ask you if we can scan our line art at 400 DPI, or I've even done 600 DPI, but I think that might be a little anal. There is a compromise between, what Jack Kirby knew, is like, yeah, well, you can do all that, but you're probably wasting your time. The thing is, if we're making NFTs, if we're making high resolution scans and we're offering that as part of our, marketing, then the higher the resolution, the better, because these people will be zooming in to little areas of it in the future. There might be ways to blow this thing up in the future in like 3D headphones, and people are like, whoa. So, I want to reproduce the art as accurately as possible, or at least have, a scan of it, as a backup. And then whatever you send to the
Sure.
printer, it's going to be what the specs the printer needs, right? They're going to tell you,
Right.
like, yeah, don't bother giving us 600 DPI line art. I mean, they might not even know what that is. But it's going to be fun. And I think I was thinking about it since last week. I think I do want to try the duotone um, idea that I originally was thinking about 20 years ago. And that's where one of our we'll have one color um, that's going to be printing dark. And I don't know if I want it to be black. I might want it to be just a very dark purple, because that has black and red and blue in it. And then you can tint it back, right? So you have a purple that you can tint back, and then mix it with a second plate, which will be like I'm thinking like an amber color. And this whole book will have a dark purple and amber color, and we'll only use the amber in areas that we want to. And the way that we'll have to do that is, bring it into Photoshop, and then duplicate the layer, and then take your pen and just block it in, or take your paint bucket and block in areas, and then do your tints. And then the great thing about doing duotone is that you actually get a third color. You know, you have your dark ink, and then you have your light complementary color. But then you have the third option, which is the blending of those two colors in tints in various areas, right? So you could have the
Yeah.
purple and then all tints of purple, but that means you're leaving the orange out of that plate. If you add the orange, now what does, dark purple and orange, or gold make when they're tinted together at 10%? And that doesn't even include like all the different texture patterns that you can use too. So it's going to be really fun making the colorized version of this, I think. you know
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I today and yesterday, a little here and there, researching um, if there is actual 11 by 17 newsprint. It doesn't seem, can't seem to find any right now, which means I just have to get the big, I think it's like 24 by 36 or something, butcher paper almost stuff.
well,
Um,
they have
because
newsprint
I,
pads at Michael's.
yeah, but yeah, I guess I could get like a 14 by 17 pad, but I really want to start experimenting in printing. Let's just call it home printing, because like I said in the past, I'm researching this Rizzo
Mm-hmm.
printer out of Japan, and I might even make the jump to invest in one. I just would love to be able to find one. That's the bigger thing that I have to do, is see if there's somebody that I can send a batch of files to and have them print them out and then just send them to me, and I'll assemble them, because I'd like to bring the
How
artsy
how much is the
element even in the
how much is the
printing.
Rizzo whole kit and shebang?
They're about 5 grand.
Okay.
So I'll have to save some birthday money and forego a stocking this year. But no, I mean it's I exactly what you're speaking to, and we are in this conversation, is even to the output needs to be highly thought of and 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 executed for the story. So it's not let's say Marvel DC base, where you're banging a book together, and then once that book is out, your hands and the publisher has it, then they just literally drop it on the front doorstep of a printer, and then whatever happens happens, because they're getting a cheap rate from the printer or something. It's
Yeah, the other guy here the other guy down in the Bronx where I teach, who's an art teacher, has a comic business for a long time. He's actually very inspiring to me. His name is Ray Felix, and he is very prolific in printing comics. And I think he's also done stuff with his students. He's done undergrounds before, but every time I see him, like he just did the Bronx Comic Con last week. Um,
Yeah, it's a pretty solid show.
yeah, I didn't go. Well, this is not the Bronx Heroes. This is like a different one that they did on Tremont, but I think they're doing it again. And they had some good gas, but I don't know how big or small it was because they had like a $10 admission, and then closer to they announced that it was admission was free, and I wonder.
Yeah.
Um, and but yeah, the guests that they had featured looked pretty good, and I didn't get to go, but this Ray guy, he's always got comics, and he says, yeah, I get them printed at Comic Daddy, and he recommends them. And I think they are super cheap, and they have incredibly fast turnaround, considering how, comics always used to be. Um, but I didn't like the comics. I didn't like they were kind of floppy and glossy, but they were, I don't know, the paper wasn't stiff. It was maybe coated, but it wasn't stiff. So I think I might want to snob out, when it comes to printing this, at least for the initial, and get it on some decent paper. Um, I think Tim Vigil comics, are usually printed on better paper, right? Sometimes he had the glossy, sometimes he had the matte, but um,
Well, it depends. I actually just watched the cartoonist kayfabe shoot interview with him down in Heroes Con,
uh-huh.
I think 2019, and his whole bane of existence was his publishers, who then were also his the gateway to his printers and stuff. So he had a lot of like beef with everybody that he was getting like Faust and them printed through because they were you know
Skimp,
glossy paper one time, and
right?
it's just
Skimping.
like where the hell,
I
yeah,
remember EO was
yeah.
very nice production
Oh yeah,
quality.
yeah,
I don't know how
yeah.
many issues.
I think that was Rebel Studios. I'm pretty sure that's him and his brother
Right,
Joe, Rebel
right.
Studios.
Which means that, yeah,
So
you're making it a better product quality wise, but you're paying more, and it's probably not as profitable. You know.
let me just ask this question, like with the purple and amber. What using amber as a spot color, what would you think of as the the important areas to get spotlighted? Is it like,
It depends how much time you want to spend coloring, but I would just totally do the whole thing on Photoshop, and I might even invest in like a nice tablet, one day. If I don't even know if they have a good version of Photoshop on for tablet or anything, but to just get the hand touch and just blow things in and just pinch in, pinch out, I think might be the quickest way. And you'll have a palette of and Photoshop has a duotone feature. That's the great thing. And so it gives you the
yeah, yeah.
paintbrush where it could be, you have your palette of all your mixtures. This is going to be 10% amber and 7 and 17% purple, and they give you the two color wheels, and then you mixing them, and it's like it's totally WYSIWYG. It's great. So yeah, that's going to be fun. That's going to be real fun, and there's no reason to say that you have to stick to the same two colors on every page. You probably just need to do that by signature. But if you're going to ask the comic company to change over, you're basically printing two runs and then just binding them together, right? So every time, like, let's say you wanted a section where it was dark purple and blue, right? Like this is when they're trapped in the ice, for 2,000 years, and their bodies are cryogenically, opened up, and they find out you're in a demon planet. So that's, that's another comment. But you could have a section of it where the color is different. But but part of that is just setting a mood, and then setting like a pattern, or setting kind of like a aesthetic, is what I want to say, right? And then and then your whole comic has that feel to it. So you gotta ask the printer about that. Like, I have a two-color job, and they're gonna be like, what? And yeah, it's gonna be like, they'll probably just run it like a four-color job with two plates missing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a printer out there on the market that's let's say reasonable,
Yeah, and
three
and
to
if you
3,000 bucks and stuff that you could stick in your garage and basically get away with printing comic
mhm,
books. Because there was a guy I was using through a distributor that I had in the 2015-16, and I made the joke, you know, oh, you must be printing these in your garage. He came back with, yep, and I need a second garage, park my car in. So
right. Yeah, so I'm let's go over what we're doing in our stories. What sequence are you on? You're in the middle of a pit fight?
I am. This is page
Oh
9.
wow. So this is when the Toros
Yeah,
are a character, and I forget the other name of the character, are fighting,
yeah,
and they're brutalizing each other, right? And then it pretty
yeah. And
pretty
then
s-
the dart gets
yeah,
figured out, and then of course now these guys are mowing down um,
right.
the audience. They're just open firing into the
Right.
audience,
There was a setup, and
taking
they
over.
they tried to they tried to fix the fight. Obviously they had heavily betted on one of the contestants, and that's going to be an interesting thing because the corruption of the pit fights are going to be legendary. You know, each and every time. I think I don't know if we're going to portray a pit fight that doesn't go sideways. You know, so and
Right.
that and that's like, to me, it's a weird commentary because in my mind I'm thinking of like these pit fights are kind of like, elections, and there could be factions, and there could be like all kinds of scheming and everything. And yeah, so a big part of it is going to be, what weapons they bring, and and if they can hide weapons, that's illegal. And then who's enforcing the rules, right? And how the outcomes just, everything just goes haywire every time. Um,
Is there going to be like a Muhammad Ali of pit fighting that maybe is like retired or left the game, and people and
yeah,
they refer to that fight or that
yes,
fighter?
there is, because of your suggestion. But it's funny if we use a name that refers to Muhammad Ali, it will invoke the godlike, public relations, presentation around it, which is like, going all the way back to history. Um, so what else do you think about this character? Like, we won't meet them; they'll just be like part of the lore, right?
Yep. I mean, it's something I'm constantly thinking in my own work where there's something being mentioned that creates relevance.
Oh no!
Um,
What if we use
and
what if we use the Shepherd Fairy design on the face? Like, the guy has a face tattoo, and it looks just like that.
well, that was the whole. Well, the whole, yeah, the Andre the Giant
Yeah,
Obey,
exactly. That's it. Yeah. So if we take
right?
that and we make
Right.
that like, some kind of symbol, some homage to that as some kind of symbol, it'll really bring in the Andre the Giant and the Muhammad Ali. It'll be great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that idea. What issue do you think we should mention it and we should start mentioning it right from the beginning.
Oh, yeah, I think
Boom.
if you can
So
squeeze it in as
those are gonna be Easter eggs.
just somebody making them.
Yeah, you can
Yep.
start to put them in.
And it would also be interesting if the opportunity could, like, if this guy was like a Miyamoto Musashi who goes off and lives in a cave somewhere, and they end up coming across him and getting some like wisdom about fighting really in the end is just futile.
Right,
Don't put everything into winning. Put it into the fight and what you're fighting for.
right.
And
The
then they
guy.
look, and then Turbo and and Trophy Girl look at each other and get a little misty eyed.
So wait. So you have the guy as like some kind of crusader, like some political message.
No, no,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no, no. Do you know who Miyamoto Musashi is?
No.
No, he's the greatest samurai. He wrote the Book of Five
Okay.
Rings,
What's the guy's name?
and he had Miyamoto, M
Uh-huh.
I Y A M O
So
T O M, then Musashi. Um, but what happened was he kind of like turned his back on the world and then lived in a cave. And the locals that were in the village down down the way from his cave would feed him. And then people were coming to seek him out because he was a famed swordsman. And he just started spewing all this knowledge. And then he ended up writing a book. And it was the Book of Five Rings.
pop goes the weasels. That I'm adding some dialogue here. Pop goes the weasels because the mace chains, the mace balls on the chains popped a bunch of their tires and caused those explosions. Pop goes the
Nice.
weasels. So yeah, so you're on the part where the trophy girl is going to be rescued by Turbo and the preceding uh sequence is that there was a pit fight that they were just witnessing, and she was the prize. Trophy Girl was the prize, and it went wrong, and they killed the proprietor, and as soon as Turbo,
Yeah, that's right
right,
here. That's
because
right
Turbo
here.
didn't get paid,
And that's right
she
there.
and so she wanted to get paid. She had won her match, but she didn't get paid, so she needed her money, and when she goes down, the proprietor um was all assassinated. They're all murdered downstairs. So she goes back up and she grabs the trophy girl, not only to save her life, but because the proprietor,
She wants to get paid.
never paid her for the previous fight. And this fight, obviously, everybody was massacred. So it's just, getting out of Dodge, but also, being the moral one, I guess. Pop goes the weasels. Who's gonna say that? Pop goes the weasels, boss. That'll be Gopher saying that. Operation Pop goes the weasels. Um, yeah. So now I got to do this other sequence here of I mean, I'm just going panel by panel at this point, but I have it broken down, and there's going to be this wide angle view right here, so the reader can really see this pursuit and how much devastation that caused when the cars all crashed to each other. So this is just going to be like a strip Yeah, so where do you think we could put the first Easter egg about the Obey character?
We could do it with like a poster
Just in the
first.
background?
So it would, yep. Like I've been having like
Eh.
some uh, dialogue with myself on the walls of the pit,
Oh,
because I've been messing around a little bit here and there. The last page, I took a block of color
mm-hmm.
pencil. This is a solid piece of a color pencil stick, color pencil stick, and then just kind of dragged it down just to create some dirt on that. And I like it, but like this area here, too high. This area right here, it like kind of screams like if we put another square, like a rectangle, where maybe it's even a ripped poster, um, and it has the silhouetted head of our, you
Mm-hmm.
know, Andre the Giant Muhammad
Yeah.
Ali, and then that the word, we obviously don't want to use obey, but we need to find another word
Disobey.
to. Oh yeah, that's a no.
Somebody's probably already
I
done it.
think it. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, if you just look up the swipes poor Sheppard Ferry got
Yeah, I
nothing
mean,
for.
we're
Um,
going to run against copyright, so we need to make it a parody, a obvious parody. And I'm
yeah,
all for doing it like, obey or disobey or something, and misspelling it, because you're directly referring to that cultural, you know, reference. And so I think that'll be protected and it'd be the best for the story. But yeah, I do want to use that image and homage the image. Um, so talking about the aesthetic of the pit walls, I wanted to show you this. I picked this up in my last crate digging, which was in Nyack, I think, and I got this image comic. I know nothing about it. It's called Station. I don't know if you can see, and
I've never
the
seen
cover
that.
is showing a
Oh
pit fight,
wow,
total pit fight,
yeah.
and I just
Who did that art?
it's credited to Joe Weems with Tanya Rich and something. They actually printed over their own signature with Fraga Alfred Gilmore. I don't know any of these names. The art, I'm gonna say, it's not as bad as I usually, you know, judge other nowadays art, which is like too much like Rob Liefeld. And this seems a little bit better. I'm interested. But look at what they do with the people, right? And so now I'm thinking here, look how detailed this is, right? And we do have some panels that show, every character in the audience in focus. And look how, just look how they did it, but they also like faded it out. And if you look very closely, I don't know how well you can see, these characters in the background are just kind of simplified, but then they get more and more
Yeah,
detailed as they get bigger and bigger. And the ratio is incredible. They have this whole world of characters just like we do, except they have a lot more supernatural Star Wars, bar stuff going on than we do, right? We just have like cults and freaks and freakers and stuff, right? So these guys have animal
yeah.
hybrids and monsters and everything. But how about we open this up and take a look inside? Now, um, I don't know any of these names. Dan Frega, Janak Alford, and this is their promo on the back. It says introducing Fable, and there's this hot chick that looks like Tara Croft the Tomb Raider or something. But that's a character. So let's see. Yeah, this is nice.
What's the year of publication?
2000.
Oh
Yeah, I just
wow.
found this in a crate, man. I just found this in a crate. Look at that. So this is good. I mean, it kind of looks like Avatar, you know, and I think they're really idealizing the boobs too much and just like, obsessing on the boobs too much. Um,
Yeah. Welcome to
I
comic
know
books.
that to me that takes away from it, but they probably feel like you gotta sell, man, sex sell.
Yeah. Worst case scenario is the guys that like boobs and bigger is
Right.
better. They'll buy the
Here
book.
we are making Turbo Pit Fighter. Turbo is
Yeah.
she's definitely boobdacious, but it's not like, the sticking out boobs. Like what was the guy in not Mad the founder of Mad Magazine that went to Playboy? That guy, where the boobs are
Oh,
always sticking out
yeah.
like torpedoes.
Yeah.
What was it?
Oh,
Candy or
gosh.
something?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah,
Oh, I can't remember. Can't remember. I
this
can.
looks like a pretty good comic. But I don't see any pit fight inside. You got this is the pit fight scene, and here they really generalize it. So that cover artist was setting the tone. I think is let's see, the cover art's the same. It says, yeah, I just wanted you to see it, man. I don't know, Yeah,
Sure.
I'll
Sure.
look at this later a little more carefully. There's another one I want to show you. I think I showed it. Oh yeah, I showed you that one last time where it was like a heavy metal artist doing like a female warrior. Do you remember that? Where is that thing? It's lying around here somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, well, that was one, and then I also picked up Michael Allred, and this is a cover he did. He has a girl called the It Girl, but on the inside he has
Yeah.
other artists doing it. So it's under the Michael Allred name. He makes the cover, and the artist does his story, I guess. And this looks like it's pretty decent if you're looking at this, but a lot of all I see is a lot of talking heads, and then here we get a little bit of action. Um, I guess this is good. Oh no, look, the you see this? This caught my eye. The skunk man character shoots a poisonous gas out of his ass, literally his ass. You see this?
Yeah.
So that stopped me in my tracks. Michael Allred, maybe he's like got this weird, um, he's got this weird way of storytelling. But it looks like they hired a pretty pro artist, and he's doing all these characters. I see Skunk Man and Porcupine Man, and I don't know what this other thing is. And the It Girl is the protagonist, and this was, probably something that Michael Allred started, and he just farming out to the inside artist. I got a cool Daredevil with a death lock, and look who the art is. Can you see? Bum bum bum.
Who is that?
All right, let me try to make it. Now can you see?
The inker Zal
Uh
Williamson,
huh. And
Joe Quesada.
yeah, who's ne who's
Yeah.
ne
Yeah.
he's my hero because I never met him, but he went from being a great artist and comic writer in Marvel with the biggest names, and then he went to Image. No, and then he became the editor of Marvel, the whole line of comics, and now he's the biggest multimillionaire in Hollywood, right?
I don't know. I can't speak to any of it. I watched their him and Joe Johnson. They have a drink and draw, and then they usually bring somebody
I thought
in,
that's what we
and
were doing.
it's yeah. Well, we're not
I'm
drinking
sipping tea.
because it's Sunday. It's
So
Sunday.
I also picked this up. This is Web Warriors, and this looks like all the different characters in the Spider-Verse movie. And it
Yeah.
looks like an Alex Roth style rip-off cover. But notice this is just red and black, right? And then they have this like ghoulish face, creeping in. So this looks good, I see some good comics happening. This I'm insulted with. Look at this. This is a freaking Jack Kirby ripoff, and it's supposed to
Of
look like the
course.
early X-Men, but it's the M&Ms, Man, this is a sellout bullshit, man. Fuck whoever did this, man. This is, this is trying to look like an early Marvel and selling M&Ms. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, at least Eminem has some art, some decent art, but
So, Jake, we're coming up on the 45 mark.
right,
Um, so we can close this episode 13 out. And if you have time, we can jump over and get into episode 14.
right on, man. So,
All
yeah,
right.
in the next episode, we're gonna talk about last night I saw Morbius, and we could talk about that. Uh,
Well, I got some books. I actually just went through my little box, my basement box. I got a couple of neat things I can do a little
so
show
tune
off
into our
for.
next episode, and we will talk about the Morbius and how the comic Morbius was first created. And spoiler hint, it has everything to do with money, money, money. We'll explain.
All right, Jake. I say
Peace,
goodbye.
my brother.
All right.